Bucyrus High School, but now they've got out the fairgrounds, which I guess is a little more room and easier for them to set up and everything. But anyways, I used to be a member from, I joined in the summer of '88, and then left in the spring of '94, so it's been 29 years since I've been up to the club. And it was a pretty good time when I was there. Had a few issues, which is why I left, but basically when I left, the club president, was Dave Moore, and I mean, he was a nice guy, but I had some problems with the club politics at the time and the way things were being run. Because at the time, you know, I turned 18 in '92, and from that point to when I left in '94, they still treated me as one of the underage kids of the club. And, you know, I had a section of the new layout that, you know, we were each given a section of the layout to, you know, do what we wanted to with, and I had mine all nicely scenic and everything, and went off to college even though I was still a member, had my dues paid and everything, and they decided to remodel my section without telling me, which had me a little irritated. We also had there's an unwritten rule in the club rules and everything, but basically the rule was unless your stuff was on the layout, no one was allowed to mess with it. They could move the box or case or whatever stuff was in, but they weren't allowed to, you know, get stuff out and put it on the layout themselves or anything. So summer of '93, I took a couple boxes of trains up to the club to run for the open house we had during the fairgrounds, or Crawford County Fair. And anyways, Dave had a friend visiting and had let him behind the layout to run trains, and I put my stuff underneath the layout, left everything in the box, and went up to Midway to get lunch, take back to the club to eat. And I got back, and this guy who, yeah, he might have been a friend of Dave's, but I did not know him. He was going through my boxes and taking my trains out, which royally pissed me off. So, because I mean, you don't just go letting bring a guest along to someone's house or something and let them go through that person's personal stuff. And that's basically what the rule was. You know, that's what got me upset with this guy who I didn't know. And Dave was like, "Oh, I know him, so he's okay." And he's like, "I don't know him, so." But there's that, and then you know, I'd be away at college for a couple months, and they'd be like, "Well, we thought you quit." And it's like, my dues are paid. I never said I was quitting or anything. I just, you know, I'm off to college. So, and then there was just the issue I had with Dave's stepdaughter at the time. She basically had a huge crush on me. She was 4 years younger than me, so when I was 19, she was 15. And she was going to school telling her friends that I was sleeping with her. Got up to college and she was literally calling all the time. And because my mom was nice enough to give her my phone number. Even though I told her not to give her my phone number. But then, during my sophomore year, her mom showed up on campus looking for me. And thankfully I was far enough away I was able to act like I didn't hear them and avoided them. But so that I was just, with everything going on, plus at the time I had my own layout at home that I was trying to get work done on, and I just felt it time to leave the club, leave everything behind. And nothing against clubs or anything, but it's just, at the time, it was not for me. And it's like, what, it just, I had my own layout and everything, like I said, and I was trying to spend time on and get fixed up and everything. But clubs are good, especially if you don't have a layout, or you just want to have a place to run longer trains or whatnot, or just get together with friends. But it's not a thing for me, like on a full-time basis or anything. But I've seen some of the YouTube videos they've had at the club up here, and it's they've done quite a few changes. It'll be interesting to see them in person. Right now, heading on State Route 4, and I am stuck behind a tanker truck. A friend of mine is supposed to meet me at the club, or the swap meet today too. He and I grew up next door to each other when we were kids. I was actually born on his 6th birthday back in '74. He wanted a neighbor kid for his birthday to play with. I was born, and turns out too, he's into trains too. And remember when we were kids, our layouts were on the sides of the basements facing each other, and we had this dream of building a tunnel between our basements to run the trains through. And we're crossing Caldwell Road here, off to the right, about half miles, crossing with Norfolk Southern. Used to ride my bike over that crossing quite a bit, watching trains when I was a kid. And I finished digging through my pictures of the old layout I had at my mom and dad's house, the last layout I had. Wish I would have had taken pictures of the earlier layouts. Those would have been nice to have, but back in the 80s, I had what a lot of people call plywood central, where it's basically just a tabletop layout, and that's it. And no scenery or anything, so never took pictures of the trains. So the audio, if you're wondering what audio you're listening to, this is recordings of trains I took back in 1985 at Horseshoe Curve over in Pennsylvania. Beautiful area of Pennsylvania to go visit if you ever get over there. least this truck driver's doing a little over the speed limit, so I'm not worrying about passing him or anything. Besides, my turn's coming up here from Mount Zion Road, which is another crossing I used to ride my bike to. Cut over to State Route 98. See if anything's coming through on Norfolk Southern. So we'll zigzag across the Norfolk Southern a couple times. Actually 3 times. But installed lights at this gates at this crossing back in '94, I think it was. Still take it easy coming across here because they fly when they come down through here. And over red to the north. See anything coming out of town, so there's on 23 there was that double stack train that was stopped waiting to head north, so there probably is something coming down from the south, so now we're on turning onto State Route 98, which is the alternate route I take up to Bucyrus. Depends on what way I'm want to come into town. But usually I come in on 4 because coming up 23 there's a rest area just south of Marion. It's nice and convenient for a long drive into town. So. Put lights and gates up on this crossing too, and around 94, somewhere around in there. Oh, there is a southbound coming. We'll turn up here at the light, hopefully, at least get part of it. Personally, don't mind this kind of a delay. Provided he's not monster long. He's picking up speed. He's hitting this long straightaway down to Marion. Looks like we got a tail end coming. Definitely do not mind waiting on a train. Especially going on to a train show. So we are going to turn here. It's not Whetstone, but fairgrounds are on Whetstone, but I'm going to cut over to Southern. Most likely there's not going to be another train coming through, but ooh, I'm speeding. Oops. These look like, those are former Coretta buses from down to Columbus. Holy crap. You know what those are doing up here? Yeah, back when '94, and then they started upgrading a bunch of these crossings to lights and gates, which huge improvement. The one in '98, that was originally just flashers, and then the one we waited on the train for, that one was originally just crossbucks, because that road wasn't a through road at the time. And there was a really bad accident involving a semi and a train. at that crossing sometime around when I was in high school, I think, or shortly after. I do not know why, but the truck driver pulled out in front of is a northbound train, I think it was, so it was coming from the right instead of the left like that one. And the cab of the semi actually derailed the front end of the locomotive, and the trailer was ripped off and thrown off into the ditch. And the truck driver, he was so badly burned from the crash that they could only identify him by a piece of jewelry he had on. So that was Norfolk Southern again on this last two crossings. This is high locomotive used to be a high locomotive crane on the right, and then this crossing here is the former Toledo and Ohio Central. It used to be Transco that used to run this back years ago. I think it's Bucyrus Locomotive or Bucyrus Car Works or something. And so now there's actually a write-up in Trains magazine a few years ago on the company that runs the place. Like I said, it used to be Transco, and they had a couple old switchers for switching cars around. They do car repairs in there and stuff, and which is pretty cool to see cars in various forms of repair and disrepair and stuff like that. So now we are on Whetstone, heading to the fairgrounds, which will be up here on the right. And let's see, train show. Okay, we're going in this gate. It's been years. Yeah, I haven't been to the fairgrounds since '94 when I left the club. I'm gonna just park over this way. Yeah, there's spots right over here. I have to worry about anyone parking up against me or anything. So before we take a look at the club layout, seeing it for the first time in 29 years, I'd like to talk a little bit about what happened with the swap meet part of the open house and train show that they had at the Bucyrus Railroad Association. Years past, when I was a club member, we had the train show and swap meet out at the Bucyrus High School, out on the west side of town, opposite end from the fairgrounds. Can't remember when we last took the modular layout out. The modular layout that is in the back part of the club building, that used to be what they would take out to the train show and set up at the high school. But after we added the second layout out in the front room, I think we stopped that was when we stopped taking the club layout out to the high school. But we always had the gymnasium, which we used for all the vendors getting set up with their tables, and then we also had the cafeteria commons area where we had the food court basically and some other displays and stuff like that. So it was a pretty big show we used to always have. So I guess that's what I was kind of expecting when I went to the show to do the swap meet and then see the club layout. I'm not sure when they started doing the show out at the fairgrounds, sometime after I left in '94, but the swap meet is now in when the show, this weekend show was, it was held out at the youth building, which is just down from the club building on the fairgrounds. And it's a little, I think it's a little smaller than I remember the high school gymnasium being. And didn't seem to be as many vendors there, and there were no visiting layouts. Nobody brought in like a display layouts or anything like that, or any clubs brought in their modular layouts or anything. It was just all vendors. One vendor had like a circle track for testing locomotives on, but that was it. And apparently I wasn't the only one that had the idea of getting there early, because as you just saw in the video, I got there at 10 o'clock. Parking lot was pretty busy, and went into the swap meet, and it was packed. One thing that didn't help was the aisleways were narrow. Basically, a little bit wider than my aisleway here on the layout, which you can squeeze two people past, but you know, you had people, one aisle, people were going left, staying to the left and coming towards you on the right, whereas the other, you get to the next aisle and it was just the opposite, where people were going on the right and coming down the left. And then you had the folks that were trying to get through down the middle, and it wasn't really a pleasant experience. One of the reasons why I haven't been to the Fostoria Rail Festival the past few years is because I just got tired of dealing with the crowds. Not just, out at the park or trackside when I'm trying to video trains, and, people are walking in front of the camera and stuff, but, when you're in the show, or, the swap meet and looking at the layouts and stuff, and, people are letting their kids, push by you, and, because kids are trying to keep up with the Thomas the Tank Engine, or, people are just being rude and bumping out of the way and everything, and it was really like that yesterday. I don't think I could go in a minute without, bumping into somebody by accident, or somebody would back up and back into me, or bump into me, and there were some people that are just trying to squeeze by, and then they would literally bump you out of their way intentionally to push past you. So that was really unpleasant to deal with. And like I said, there didn't seem to be as many vendors there. There was a good variety of vendors, because you had people who, they had a lot of like new stuff that was, you had vendors that had new stuff that was like brand new in the box from direct from the hobby store or something like that. You had some stuff where people, customized locomotives and stuff with details and weathering and that kind of thing. Then you had people who were selling stuff that looked like they just pulled it out of somebody's attic or something. So there's quite a bit of variety for, it's kind of like, when I go to the antiques malls here in town, and, last fall when I went over to Indiana, you don't know what you're going to find when you go to one of these. But it didn't seem to be as many vendors, and, it was just so crowded with narrow aisles and everything, and it just really made it uncomfortable being in there, that building with that many people and everything. The other thing that happened was I had a really weird experience with a vendor. I hadn't gone to the swap meet planning to buy anything. Of course, I never go to swap meets or antiques malls or flea markets or anything planning to buy something. But he had a display up with, it was like 12, 15 Athearn Genesis Conrail locomotives. brand new in the box, on display, and I think there were like 3 GP15s, which I didn't really want any GP15s, but he had several GP38-2s and GP40-2s, which, you know, these two Conrail locomotives I've had since mid-80s. These are GP38, so a GP38-2, GP40-2, a pair of those would really be good for replacing these two. So the prices were actually really good. He had each of them marked as $140, which the Athearn Genesis Amtrak locomotives that I have gotten recently, you know, those were just over 200 or around 200. So, you know, 60 bucks off at least. You know, that's $120 savings. I almost was tempted to pick out 3 of the locomotives instead of just 2, but I was like, you know, okay, control my savings or my spending. And so I picked out 2 that I wanted to buy. I go to hand them to the guy to buy them, and he just stares at me. And he just stared at me for several seconds, and then I was like, I'd like to buy these, if you don't mind. And so, meaning, you know, I'm willing to pay what was on the price tag, which is $140 for a total of $280 for both locomotives. And he just continued staring at me, and then he said, I'll give them to you for $250. And I don't know why he was trying to bargain like that, because I'm already willing to pay the full price of $280, but he's acting like I was wanting to bargain with him, and he tells me $250. I was like, okay, I'll take the $250 then. And I go to, at the time I'm pulling out my wallet, and I go to hand him my credit card, and he's like, oh, I don't do credit cards. And I was like, well, do you mind holding these so I go get my checkbook from my Jeep? He's like, oh, I don't do checks either. And it's like, okay, I don't carry the cash like that on me, you know. If I had that much cash on me, it'd be dangerous with my spending and everything. So I was like, okay, he just lost a sale. But it was like, you know, the fact that, you know, I'm picking out locomotives to buy, he didn't ask if he could help me find anything, or, you know, and when, you know, I hand him the locomotives, I'm getting my wallet out, and he just stares at me. It's like, when to buy these? Do you not want to sell them? Or, and he just did not seem very enthusiastic about the whole thing. So, you know, I think the way I see it, it's his loss, but because, you know, I still have my Conrail locomotives that I've had for years, but it, you know, just his whole attitude just seemed really weird. But there was some other stuff that I was tempted to get in terms of freight cars, that kind of thing. But I've already got so many freight cars right now, I'm starting to think about having to get more cases and try to figure out what to do for more storage for keeping cars off the layout and everything to make room for on the layout. So ended up not getting anything at the swap meet, so which was $5 to get in, and then the club layout, which we'll see here in a moment, we were able to just walk in. They didn't check to see if you had the hand stamp from the swap meet or paid the $5 or anything like that. So club layout, you could just walk it right in and view it. So this weird experience with the swap meet and with that vendor, and then unfortunately with the crowd and everything too. So here I am following a couple friends in to the club layout building, and this is the new layout that we put in sometime about midway of when I was a member. The town scene here used to be up on a hill, and it's obviously been expanded quite a bit. A lot of this trackage here has been redone. It used to be just 2 mainline tracks going by here, and not all this industrial trackage. A lot of these buildings are new, and right in here in the straightaway here, we used to have 2 tracks, one on either side of the double track main line that would drop down or branch off and then drop down into tunnels to go underneath the layout along the straight side to go into under the layout staging. But where all these industries are here on the inside of the peninsula here, that I believe used to be a hillside, and this track that's like up here on the hill above the main line on the outside, and I don't believe that used to be there when I was a club member. So that's been added since I was here at the club. Obviously, they put in a lot of work and stuff with all these buildings and everything. I'm not sure if they actually operate it or if it's just for display or what, but one thing, and then coming around this corner here, again, some of this tracking outside the main line is new. The coal tower that's over the two mainline tracks, that's new as well as everything on this side with the town, that baseball field and everything. We had some industries planned for along the main line on this aisle here on the right, which the train's going to be going by here in a moment. I can't remember exactly what we were putting in, but obviously this has been changed quite a bit. The control stand there behind the guy standing there, I think that's the original. Actually, one thing too with this curve here where the train is now, that actually used to all be in a tunnel. The two mainline tracks would go in a tunnel, go around that curve, then come out in the peninsula on the other side of the control stand. So that's been opened up and more trackage added in there. Same with all this trackage here on the right. That mine, I don't believe was ever there. I know we had a couple sidings going in, but it wasn't extensive like that. And then coming around the peninsula is where one of the big changes is I've noticed on this layout. That track going into the tunnel, that didn't used to be there either, going into the mine. Coming around the peninsula here, this used to be Horseshoe Curve, our version of Horseshoe Curve anyway, that George Fritz had put in. Where there used to be just a hillside up above the four tracks there on the curve. There didn't used to be all these industries and everything. And in the aisle there, instead of the aisle and that control stand there, that used to actually be lake or reservoir like the actual Horseshoe Curve has in the middle. Then there was a park at trackside up there above where this rock outcroppings are. That has all been changed. This here used to be all hillside too. Actually, this is my section that I used to have from when we put in the layout, and everyone got to see the layout. Had a couple roads going over the tracks with bridges. There is a foundation I had in on the inside of the curve for like where a former tower had been. And it's just basically a scenic hillside area, kind of reminiscent of Pennsylvania around where Horseshoe Curve was. I kind of tied it in with my road connecting to the road that was going to the park there in the curve. So this is of course my area that had been changed some with the bridges. George Fritz, when I got off to college, George Fritz had gone in and replaced all the one bridge on the main highway that I had with a covered bridge, which didn't make sense for a two-lane blacktop road to go suddenly to a covered bridge. But of course that's all been changed since that was even changed. So there wasn't even a tunnel here. It was just all open for the curve and everything coming around this end of the peninsula. Coming around on this side, this used to be all hillside too on the dividing the two sides of the peninsula here. You can also see here too the 2 tracks on this side were going into the tunnels to go down to the what had been the underground state or under the layout staging. And I can't remember exactly how there was I thought we had one track that went up and over on one of these bridges here that went into the layout. This has been changed so much, and there's other bridges here coming across from the layout in the background, which is the original layout. And so all this industrial trackage that you're seeing right now, this is all new since I was a club member. So then we had this section here that was a connection in between the 2 layouts, so we could run trains between the 2 layouts. I don't remember ever seeing trains running between the 2 layouts. And on the new layout that we're seeing here, the trains that you see running, those are about as long as the trains as we ever had running on there. We never had the long trains like we have in this layout. This here layout is the original club layout. We only had like 2 tracks bridging in between the 2 layouts before, so this is all configured differently and everything than this interchange here where the yard connects on the inside peninsula connects to the main layout. That's all been changed. We used to have only 3 tracks running on this layout. This was originally the sectional modular layout that would get taken out to the high school or train shows. One thing a friend of mine pointed out to me here too, somebody who was obviously a fan of Smokey and the Bandit. There we see Burt Reynolds Trans Am, and then we got Buford T. Justice and Jr. in Hot Pursuit, and then Snowman and Fred. So obviously recreating a scene from a cool movie. So anyways, coming around here, I'm not sure exactly what was on this corner section before, but I know there used to be a couple like industry kind of things here. This has been configured too with the trackage and everything. We used to have a 6-foot bridge here where these bridges are. That the outside track went through, but the 2 inside tracks, they kind of merged on the bridge to get across, because it wasn't 3 tracks wide, it was like 2.5 tracks wide. So it was a beautiful bridge, beautiful watching trains going across it and everything. Only problem was if you got to talking to visitors or something and weren't paying attention, and you had 2 trains, the 2 inside tracks we usually had going the same direction as that fast train is going away from the camera there. They would be going in the same direction, but coming across the bridge, if you're not paying attention, you could easily accidentally have a collision right there on the bridge, we had some spectacular crashes, I will say that. I distinctly remember my Amtrak plowing through an old-time steam train that George had running on the inside track one time, and that was pretty spectacular. Coming up here, there used to be a trucking outlet here that Ken Mead had put in here. Then there was a railroad crossing that came across the tracks, and it veered 90 degrees to the other direction that we're going in, and went around the front edge of the layout with the road. That trucking company though, or a trucking outlet with piggyback service and everything, that's all gone. This corner, if I remember right, it used to be just the three tracks coming around, and then
is like open country, and across in front of the tracks here, that was a road, the road coming off of Ken's section. And then it veered around and over in this area here. This is the there was the road veered across the tracks, and there was a grade crossing there. There you can see how they converted that to a lift out, making it easier for members to get through underneath the layout without having to duck under and bust our backs coming up underneath the layout or anything like that. So, but the road, it veered off across the tracks again, and then we had to grade crossing with lights and or not gates, but flashing lights. So this, where this train here on the right is coming through, that used to be, you know, the trucking center and industrial track and everything. It used to be an actual running main line or anything. So they've modified this so the layout has 4 mainline tracks running now instead of just 3, which is a pretty big change. And obviously this is the layout where we would often have kind of see how long of a train we could run. I do remember one of my trains I took up, I did have it running, and it was about 2/3, 3/4 of the way around the layout. It would stretch, so much longer train than what I could run on my home layout, which was always cool to see. Plus my, you know, my Amtrak train that I have now, you know, they would look awesome, you know, pacing around in this layout and having full length and have them cruising around. Just a nice 4-train meet there. I thought was pretty cool getting to catch all 4 going through at the same time like that. But so anyways, on this corner, I can't remember exactly what used to be on this corner. I'm not sure if it was just open or if it was there was an actual business or industry or anything there, but so a lot of this is new. That I don't recall ever seeing on the old layout or when I was a member. But coming around this corner here, there's a lot more changes that are coming up here too. It's like this ethanol. There's like an ethanol facility they've got in here. That's like all new and everything. So, signal bridges. I don't think we ever had signal bridges with actual signals lit up or anything when I was a member. There's a grain facility. That's new. On this straight section here, we had sidings for both the mainline tracks, the 2 outside mainline tracks. That's where we would put trains on and off the layout for this section, or in this layout. And then for the track 3, coming off the track 3 on the inside of main line, we had there's a small yard, just like half dozen tracks that we had in there. This is like all new trackage and stuff that's been redone. Looks pretty nice. But of course, over the other side of this side of the layout, you can see the main peninsula, which is the turntable and yard. That we had the ramp, or the tracks ramping up there at the top right to go out to the new layout, to all the industrial trackage. That is different, because originally the track would come around the roundhouse, and on the far side there where the backdrop, you can see that blue backdrop, there was a track that ramped up went over to the new layout there. But here's a better look at some of the changes of the where the small yard used to be, and then they paused the trains there for a few minutes to someone from the bottom locomotive from the show wanted to test run it on the club layout to make sure it worked before taking it home, so they were nice enough to do that. But here you can see the roundhouse. I can't remember what all buildings were here on this here, but here you can see where they've extended or they've put in that fourth main line, and they actually have it so that it goes into the yard and then circles around and goes back out onto the main layout. So which I don't remember a lot of things. I don't remember very much of that on that peninsula actually running. A lot of that was on display. I know we had Bucyrus TV station in the summer of '92. They did a half-hour segment on the layout in the club, and yeah, I got interviewed because I was one of the younger members of the club, so they wanted someone, not just Dave Moore, but they wanted one of the younger members like myself to show, that the layout is for all ages, or the trains are for all ages. So that was pretty cool seeing myself on TV, but 15 minutes of fame. So but anyways, this here we had like I said, it was a small yard, and then the yard here in the center peninsula, that the backdrop, they've removed a lot of that backdrop. It was on that portion that kind of made it like a scenic divider. Same way with the other backdrops around the other side that provided a backdrop to kind of hide the aisleway, and so you could basically we're focusing only on the trains in front of you. And then coming around here, there's a little bit more view of the overview of the yard and the mainline track and everything. But coming around this corner here where this mine or this quarry is, that used to be a hillside with some houses, I think, and that sort of thing. So this has all been changed too. And then coming up here on this junction here with the Yard Peninsula coming in where it joined the main layout. This was actually a section that I had originally done some scenic work on. I've never done actual scenic work on it back, it's around 89 or 90 or somewhere like that. And they gave me the scenery materials, told me to have fun. And so remembering what I had read in Model Railroader magazine, they let me do some groundwork and stuff to fill in the scenery, or some grass and bushes and stuff like that, stuff that was steered. That's all unfortunately gone now, but it was kind of neat getting to see that. The control stand that was on the inside of the layout there that we just saw at the top right, that is actually the original control stand that we had for the 3 main line tracks for the when I was a club member here. So, but here you can see how the inside track 4 goes into the yard and then circles around and comes back out to the main layout, which is pretty cool. Like I said, I don't remember ever seeing trains actually running on that line. We might have had like 1 or 2 maybe, but I'm not sure. But then coming around here to the connector or connection to the new layout. Like I said, a lot of this has been reconfigured since I've been a member. And step out into the other room, and think that track there on the left was one of the original tracks that was connecting to the new layout. And then, because in order to connect to the new layout, you actually connected in through the yard and went up the ramp that I had mentioned that is no longer in existence. But all this, scene here with the town up on the hill, that's a lot of that's been reconfigured. I know there were buildings up on the hill and everything, but that was all reconfigured. And over here, this is the 6-foot bridge that I had mentioned, where 2 tracks had merged, or the 3 tracks merged down to like 2.5. This was originally from the original layout in the back room. This is all scratch built by George Fritz years and years ago when I was a member. And originally, I still remember the first open house we had with this. We did not have the plexiglass in front of the bridge, and we had to have someone stationed like a couple feet away to make sure little kids did not go grabbing the bridge. We almost had one kid start wanting to grab the bridge, and I swear George Fritz went 2 shades of gray when he saw someone trying to grab the bridge that he'd worked so hard on. He did a lot of scratch building, beautiful work there on it, in my opinion, but operationally though, it was a bit of a nightmare getting, if you weren't paying attention and 2 trains collided on that thing. Anyways, back to the newer layout. The track, it used to be just 2 mainline tracks through here. I think there was a double crossover or something, but the mainline track here has been reconfigured, it looks like, and there's also a track now, looks like going through the town up above too for the industrial trackage. So this is pretty much different, and it was under this section here on this side is where we had the staging tracks underneath the layout that dropped down from the main line. So then we're coming back around to where we came in through the main entrance of the club building. So now we'll go on to the still images that I got of the layout with my cell phone, as well as a few videos that I got with the cell phone. And then I'm going to talk too about what I thought of the show and about my view on clubs and everything. So it was pretty cool getting to see the club layout again for the first time in 29 years. It's a lot of changes, and kind of sad seeing some of the work that we did on the layouts no longer being there. And like the new layout, one thing I noticed was all the track is now commercial flex track, whereas when I was a club member, the all of the track was hand laid. We actually hand laid all the track that was in the main or in the new layout. So seeing all the work that we did into that being gone is kind of sad. Overall, though, for the show, is pretty good experience. Like I said, I had issues with the crowd at the swap meet. Then there was the issue with that one vendor. But that's couldn't really be helped with the space that it was in, and plus you can't really help with if you get a vendor in there with a bad attitude kind of thing. I've seen that at the Fostoria train show before, so and I know, like I said at the beginning of the video, I did leave the club back in '94 under not so good circumstances. I didn't appreciate, being treated as a kid when I left the club. When I was 18, 19 years old, and they're treating me like the kids there, like 10 years old and stuff. I did not appreciate that. Plus the fact that I would go off to college, and I'd stop into the club when I was home on breaks, or something, and they were like, "Oh, we thought you quit," and it's like, my dues are paid. I didn't say I was quitting. I'm off to college. And then there was the issue with, like I said, Dave. I think Dave was running things. Is like, he was pretty much dictating how everything went, even though it's supposed to be a democratic voting and stuff on how things went. And plus, there was the issue I had with summer '93 when he had a friend visiting. He basically let his friend go through my stuff that wasn't on the layout, which is a big no-no. Or, it's an unwritten club rule, but, it was strictly enforced. It was supposed to have been strictly enforced. And, you don't take a guest to someone's house and then let that guest go through the belongings of the person that's hosting your visit. That's just big no-no. So, and then, there was the issue with Dave's stepdaughter at the time chasing me around and literally stalking me, which had me really uncomfortable when I got off to college, and she's constantly calling and trying to hunt me down and everything. And plus telling her friends, even though I was 19 and she was 15, she's telling her friends that she was sleeping with me and stuff, and which, that's really made me uncomfortable dealing with that. So, nothing is, it's nothing against the club or the way it's run now. I have no problems with clubs. It's just, for me at the time, it was the right thing for me to, move on and do my own thing. Plus I had my own layout that I was, trying to get scenery done on and everything, while I still had that layout, which you'll see in a later video series that I'm working on. But, I did learn a lot while working at the club, or when I was a club member, and then, I did have fun times there. I haven't heard from, I don't think, anybody from the club in a long, long time. I know Dave Morris passed away. He passed away within the last couple of years, which is sad to hear about, but anyways, it's good to see that the club is still going and promoting the hobby. That's one thing, I'm always for, is promoting the hobby and, introducing people, both young and old, to the hobby, because a lot of folks are like, they don't know, you're not sure, how to get started, or, they see this big layout like this here in the club, and they, feel intimidated about getting started, that kind of thing. And, even though, running trains and laps like they do at the club open house and everything, even though it's not my cup of tea, as much as I enjoy watching the trains run, just running laps in a circle like NASCAR's, for me, I've moved into, prototypical operations, so just running trains mindlessly in a lapping is, just not something for me. But that's the thing that is really nice about this hobby, is there's, just so much variety of how involved you can get in the hobby. Some folks are happy with building just models and putting them on display. Some people just, like watching the trains loop around and around and around over and over. And then there's folks like me who, we get involved with, the operations aspect of the layout or model railroading, where, we're trying to operate our trains in a prototypical manner, and, getting into car cards, waybills, and all that. So, and, even though I have no interest in joining another club again, just because I don't have the time, and I don't have, I don't want to get involved with another issue like, what I went through with Bucyrus Club at the time. I don't know how the Bucyrus Club is right now with how things are operated, or how much it's changed since I was a member, but hopefully it's changed for the better. Hopefully they treat the younger members who, better than I was treated. And but there are clubs that, they, when clubs do things right, I mean, they can be a good experience, I think, at introducing folks into the hobby, getting folks involved. Especially, like in this case, with the Bucyrus layouts, Bucyrus Club's layouts. If people don't have a home layout that they can run trains on, there's always the club layout that you can run trains on, which is always cool. And so, but there's other clubs that have gone through amazing things. They don't just have a display layout, they have, actual operating sessions and everything like that. I think it's called the La Mesa Model Railroad Club out in I think it's out in California. They've got an amazing layout which replicates the Tehachapi Mountains out in California, including the world famous Tehachapi Loop. There's a lot of videos. I think Vic Yoder's YouTube channel, which I subscribe to, has a bunch of videos of that layout, and is amazing. There's I know there's a two-part cab ride video I've seen of that layout, where combined together it's over an hour just to take a train over the layout. That's how big this club layout is, and they've got the whole dispatching board and everything for that. Other thing too, there's another club that from the 80s that I remember. Actually, Model Railroaders had a lot of club layouts featured in there over the years, but another one that sticks out in my mind was the Midwest Railroad Modelers Club that used to exist. I think they might have no longer be in existence, but back in the 80s they had a amazing layout with basically replicating not just a specific area, but it was like a generic Midwestern themed layout, and they could change signage, vehicles, that kind of thing, and they could have operating sessions from either like 1940s Pennsylvania Railroad or to like back then modern 1980s Burlington Northern, that kind of thing. So so there's a lot of different varieties of clubs, as well as ways to get involved with the hobby. So but like I said, I'm glad to see the Bucyrus Club is still going and promoting the hobby, and it's kind of a lot of memories that came back when I was there visiting the layout and everything, both good and bad. Fortunately, you gotta take the bad with the good at times, but yeah, it was cool getting to see that. Really wish they would run longer trains on the new layout in the front room. I've always thought, my Amtrak passenger trains would look beautiful going around that horseshoe curve, the way we originally had it. Still look good going around it now, but the way we originally had it with the hills and everything, I always thought that was really pretty, but it wasn't an accurate depiction of horseshoe curve, but it is still pretty. So anyways, as we look at these last images of George's Bridge that he had built, I just want to thank everyone for watching this layout or watching this video. I hope you enjoyed this little trip down memory lane for me. And I'm still working on a new video series for the current layout, as well as some other videos of the layout. So hope you'll join me for those, and thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.